Yeah, so there we go. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate you being here. Cloudy morning, but I hope you'll have a good day. And we've got a great presentation today for you. I'm Jenny Biggs with Aging Together. I am the County Resource Specialist. Unfortunately, our director, Ellen, could not make it. She's our wonderful monthly host for this, but she had a conflict today. Oh, here comes another person. So I'm going to keep an eye on the chat and make sure I'm letting everyone in. And again, we just appreciate you being here. We've got a great summer series, summer caregiver series that'll be coming up the rest of the summer. This is our second one. We had about 17 people on the first one, June 8th. And today our compassion fatigue is the topic. And then we've got 2 in July and 2 in August. So we hope you'll come back and join us for the others. But I am going to turn it over to Lisa Dodson, who's going to introduce our speaker today. And we'll go ahead and take off for our webinar. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's so good to see everybody this morning. And we're excited about this second seminar in our caregiver summer series that Aging Together is doing. And Meg Lawless Crossett is our guest speaker today, and she's a licensed clinical social worker working in the field of gerontology and hospice. Meg believes in meeting seniors where they are in life, accepting their limitations while enjoying getting to know who they are. Meg knows it takes a village to care for seniors properly. She is not only honored to be part of that village, but loves being an integral part of the village. Meg will discuss a variety of skills and coping mechanisms to help support and encourage the caregiver as they learn to navigate their own journey and feelings during the changes and stages and behaviors of dementia. Meg will also discuss the importance of self-care and ways to prevent caregiver burnout. We want to encourage you as Meg presents today to ask questions. You can do that by raising your hand, and there's an option for that, or putting a question into the chat box. We'll be monitoring that, and then as Meg moves along through the presentation, we'll just share those questions with her, or you can unmute and ask your question as well. So we want to again thank you for being here, and Meg, I'll hand it right over to you.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everyone. I just wanted to share that, yes, I was a caregiver as well. My mother-in-law had Alzheimer's, and so I was part of the caregiving world with her, and I understand having been that way with her and dealing with her as she declined with her Alzheimer's. So I just wanted to share some things that I have found over the years and some information that I have used. So this is called Caregiving Compassion Fatigue, the joy and difficulties in loving and caring for someone 24 hours a day. Dementia does not rob a person of their dignity. It's our reaction to them that does. Teepa Snow is an authority on the dementia patient. If you have not seen or read anything by Teepa Snow, please look her up. She is pretty amazing in how she works with people with dementia and teaches us how to do it, which I found really supportive in some of the seminars that I've gone to with her. When one person gets dementia, it doesn't just affect that one person. Everyone around them is going to be living with dementia one way or the other. And that's pretty true as far as I could feel. We were all living with dementia when my mother-in-law had it. Caregiver exhaustion. Friends and family are the biggest support network. Withdrawing because you're overwhelmed or exhausted is understandable. Share with them what you are going through and ask for their help. They might not realize the stress caring for your loved one is causing you. So if you're overwhelmed, you're not going to ask your children, your siblings. Sometimes I find that one person is the one in charge, and there's 3 other siblings who come in and come out, but they're not really contributing to the day-to-day caregiving of the families. And I find my caregivers just don't even want to ask anymore. They feel like people should volunteer, and that doesn't always happen. You have to ask. You have to be able to talk to them. It's very important that you think about that. Some of the other exhaustion, think about this for yourself. Loss of interest in activities you previously enjoyed. Are you finding that for yourself? Feeling blue, cranky, hopeless, and helpless with your loved one. Have you had changes in sleep patterns, emotional and physical exhaustion? Are you using alcohol or sleep medications too much? And do you have feelings of wanting to hurt yourself or your loved one? If that's the case, you need to call 911 right away. So as we were saying, finding yourself withdrawing from friends and family, please ask them. Unless you ask, they will think that everything is okay, and they will not volunteer time if they think you're doing just great. So you have to talk. You have to think about what you're going through and let them know what you're going through. Loss of interest in activities you previously enjoyed. Hire someone, if possible, to give yourself time to go to the doctors. It's really important for you to continue with your activities that you need to do some things that you enjoyed. Right now, I mean, we've all had COVID, so nobody's been able to do anything, but even meeting a church group, some people have given up on going to church. See if you can find that person or your sibling or your child to come and stay so that you can go to church if that's really what you like to do, or go to lunch with a friend. Use family members as support. Ask them to come and stay with the patient. Hire somebody if you can, if that is available. There are plenty of organizations that will offer that for you. And the other thing about it is, if you think about asking one of your children to come and stay, it establishes a different relationship, that they can come and be part of that relationship with their grandparent, something that they haven't experienced before, but maybe provides them with a new relationship that they hadn't experienced. Are you feeling blue, cranky, hopeless, and helpless? Emotional exhaustion is a large part of caregiving. Watching someone decline, whether it's from cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or any other life-threatening illness, is a roller coaster of emotions. The good days bring relief that everything's going to be fine and you have hope. Oh, we're going to beat this. And then the bad days can bring sadness and despair. This is a good time to find a support group of other caregivers so you can share your feelings as you go through the roller coaster of the illness. Keeping yourself healthy is most important. You cannot be a caregiver if you need caregiving. So that's something to keep in mind. Changes in sleep patterns, emotional and physical exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion is a large part of caregiving. Physical exhaustion is another one, because you're up at night, you're taking care of, you're moving somebody that weighs 200 pounds or 150 pounds. When you had a 2-year-old, that 2-year-old was 30 pounds. When you have an adult, that's 150 pounds that you're moving. That is very difficult for our people to have to deal with. Drinking every day to excess is prohibiting you from caring for your loved one. Taking too many sleep medications will also cause you problems. So make sure that you're going to the doctors when you need to, resting when the person is resting. That's something sometimes they are awake from 3 to 5 in the morning and you have to be up with them, but then they sleep from 8 until 10. And many people think, well, okay, they're sleeping from 8 to 10. I'm going to go and get all my house cleaning done and I'm going to do this and that. And it's kind of like a baby. You remember when they told you have to sleep when the baby sleeps? Well, it's the same thing with your elderly person that you're dealing with. Using alcohol or sleep medication too much is a problem. So that could be a hindrance, because if you need to be awake and alert and you've taken too much sleep medication, could cause problems that the patient could fall out of bed, the patient could fall going to the bathroom, and you're sleeping and you can't hear it. Again, the same thing with alcohol or other drugs. If you have too much in your system, you could fall. Most elderly people have middle-aged children caring for them. And I hate to say it, but as we age ourselves, we have the propensity to fall. So we want to keep you healthy, and we want to keep your caregiving person healthy. Feelings of wanting to hurt yourself or your loved one. I cannot stress that you call 911 if you're having those problems, if it's that crazy. If you're just feeling that you just can't have had enough, call a loved one. Call somebody else to come and be with you. But if it's immediate, 911 will come and help you. So some of the causes of burnout: role confusion, unrealistic expectations, lack of control, unreasonable demands. Role confusion, having to step in and be the parent or take on roles as a spouse that are new to you. That's hard for the loved one as well. They don't want to give up their role as a parent. Parent doesn't want the child to step in and take over. So while they still have they retain some of their role as a parent, and so it's very hard for the child to have to step in. This is a major cause of arguments and fighting in the very beginning of dementia, of getting parents to understand that you have to step in and take over, because the parents consider themselves to still be the parents. The spouse may not be willing to give up his or her role, such as like paying the bills. And I have found that many caregivers don't realize that the spouse is not doing the job anymore until the lights go out. And then the cable is turned off. And then they're fighting for, okay, what's happening and what do we have to do? And the person with dementia is not allowing you to take care of that. So if you suspect that there's some dementia in the beginning, you have to start following what's happening in the bills and paying and making sure that the bills are getting paid. Sometimes you have to make up a story. Well, you know, Judy's husband died recently and she had no idea how to write any of the bills. So I need you to show me what you do so that I can take care of that. Not saying you're going to die, but it's just a way to get in the door with them. Same with the parents, mom, dad. You know, my friend Judy, her parents just died in a car accident and nobody told me what to do. And so Judy was very confused on how to work with her parents' estate. I need to know what you have written out so that I know how to work with it. It changes the dynamics in the conversation. Allow the person who is in charge, quote unquote, in charge, to continue to write out checks. Just do supervision by saying, let me see what you're doing. Let me see, teach me how to do it. And then find other ways for that person to maintain some autonomy, or what they think is autonomy, especially while they're trying to keep control. Unrealistic expectations. Expecting too much from yourself. Loved one, the person who's sick is expecting too much from you. Patients can set very high expectation goals for the caregiver. Patients use guilt while they're able to still talk, that you're placing them in a nursing home. You're leaving them with a stranger while you go to the movies. Patients want you as the caregiver to sit up all night with them if they can't sleep. There's so many expectations for the caregiver, and there's so little time. So you need to learn to set limits, to say what you can do. And it's okay if they get mad, because that's part of the dementia. They get mad and they'll just have to deal with it. The best thing is to set expectations, talk to them, tell them what you will do, what you're going to do, and remind them that this is what you said you would do. Just constantly talk with them about it, and eventually, hopefully, it sinks in. Lack of control. An illness has no timeline, and the illness is what's in control. The woulda, shoulda, coulda creeps in at times when somebody's sick. If only we had caught it earlier. If only. Again, the illness is what's in control, and we as caregivers support the patient as the illness takes over. And we have to remind ourselves that, because I have heard so many caregivers say, if only I had taken him to the doctors earlier, if only, and it's the disease. Or they're not accepting of the disease, and, oh, I should have given him this to drink. I should have done that. The illness is in control, you are not. And it helps to remember that, because that lack of control and accepting that helps with the burnout. Unreasonable demands. Sometimes our loved ones see only their illness and not what their demands are doing to you, the caregiver. The demands that patients place on the caregiver and the ensuing guilt because the caregiver cannot deliver is immense in caregiver burnout. Many times the patient is angry, but really the patient is angry at the illness, angry about not being able to do things they love to do, angry about losing function. They're angry because they can't use the bathroom anymore. The patient feels safe with the caregiver and know they are loved by the caregiver. So the anger can be directed at the caregiver because you are safe. So here are some ways to practice self-care while caring for others. Make your well-being a priority. Nearly 40 million people in the US have taken on the responsibility of caring for the needs of someone living with a chronic condition, a disability, or the impacts of old age on their own self-care, according to the Care Academy. Take time out for yourself. Hire a sitter. Find time during the day when the patient is quiet and make that your time. Live in the present moment and choose happiness for yourself, whatever your definition of happiness is. Take inventory. Examine 3 aspects of your well-being: spiritual, mental, and physical. Rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. Anything that you've ranked below 5 should be prioritized as your initial area of improvement. Establishing a morning ritual. Time is a barrier, caregivers often say. I have no time. So allocate 10 minutes to yourself in the morning. Take those 10 minutes to tend to your spiritual, mental, and physical well-being. Those 10 minutes can have a profound impact on your mood and outlook on life. Create a happiness list and practice it. When caring for others, we tend to forget about the things that bring us joy. Create a list of 10 to 20 items. Identify things that cost money and things that don't. Remember that an occasional treat is good for the soul and a good self-care investment towards your happiness. Try to do one item on your list every week. If you are feeling really low, try once a day. Create a daily self-care log. It is important for you to recognize the changes in you when caring for your loved one. If one of those things is off, you will not be functioning at best capacity to help your loved one. Meals for the day. You have to eat well to care for someone else. Physical activity. You need to maintain your physical abilities and movement, just as important for you as for the loved one. Medications. You need to keep track of your own health and medications that you take. This is a big one. I see so many caregivers forgetting to take their own medications. Sleep. You need to sleep 7 to 8 hours a night for optimal health. If the patient isn't sleeping, consider hiring someone for that evening shift if you can, or having someone else in your world come and stay for the night to help you sleep, if that's possible. Daily goals. What do you need to get done today? Make a list and keep to the list. Don't add more or give yourself downtime. Give yourself the downtime you need. End of day recap. So after, look back at all you accomplished in the day, and sometimes it might not be what you planned, but look at your accomplishments for the day. Even if it was just getting the patient dressed and bathed, that's an accomplishment. Because sometimes, as we all know, someone with dementia fights and it takes all day to get them bathed and dressed. If that's the goal for the day, that's good. Then goals for tomorrow, always good to have goals, but have the ability to shift the goals if the patient has something different in mind. Remember that. It's okay to switch your goals and move it on. Establish an evening ritual. And this is also good for our patients by establishing a ritual with them so that they know what's coming, what's happening every day, the same thing. It helps them prepare for sleep. Evening ritual. For good sleep, you turn off the technology, cell phones, computers, and television. 1 hour before retiring. Allow yourself time to transition to a state of rest. Take a bath, do some deep breathing. Prayer, meditation can bring your body and mind to a place of restful peace. You know how you used to read to your babies to get them to bed? Sometimes that helps with an elderly person. Just reading them a short story or reading part of the Bible, they really appreciate that. Guided meditation. It has been proven in studies that a guided meditation can improve your state of mind and outlook on life. Find some time for yourself and listen to the guided meditation to help your outlook. There's lots of guided meditations online. You can just go online and sit, and that could be your 10-minute in the morning to just have a guided meditation to give yourself that space. Did somebody have a question? Okay. Dementia lasts for years. Most of that time, people with dementia retain the skills, memories, and passions that allow joy and inclusion in the larger social world, if we would but let them in, by Tia Powell. I read her book. I have it in my references. Her mother had dementia, and she talked a lot about what you could do to enjoy the person with dementia. Every remaining day should be a good day. And I guess that's how you recap at the end of the night. You hope for a good day. And if it's been a rough day for you and a rough day for the patient, then a goal for tomorrow would be a better day. And how can we make it a better day? And what can we do to make it a better day? And that's where your resources and your people, your caregiving people, your support teams, the caregiver groups can help you help work with a person who is fighting with you every day. Because I know that dementia patients can fight, and it makes it so hard, and you're exhausted by the end of the day because you've spent the entire day fighting with them. So the goal would be to have a good day. Music, art, good food. There are many ways to brighten the day of a person with dementia. And this is by Stephanie THURROT. And so she had a lot of good ideas on this. Caregiving, joy, live in the moment. 7 ways to help a loved one with dementia reclaim joy. Every remaining day should be a good day by Tia Powell. Looking forward, not back. Think beyond safety. Get care for other medical conditions. Boost joy with good food. Help them keep moving. Seek joy in the arts. Return to childhood activities. 7 ways to help a loved one reclaim joy. Look forward, not back. My mother is no longer the social worker she once was. Yes, this is difficult, but try to embrace who they are at the moment. Erase the negative in your voice. Right? You know, when you say, well, that's not like you, Mom. Come on, stop it. They can't help how they are. They can't change their thought process. We have to change how we react to them. And the negativity hurts them. They can't figure out why you're being so negative. So try to reframe what you're saying into a more positive statement. And always agree with them. You know, if they're telling you the sky is gray, the sky is purple, yes, it is. It's a pretty color of purple, because to them it's purple, and you can't bring them back to the reality of your reality. They're in a different reality. So we have to agree with them. It makes things go smoother in the day. Think beyond safety. Every stage of dementia doesn't mean leaving them home alone to watch hours of TV. Social interaction is important. Day programs are good places at this point because they can still interact. Most counties have an office on aging and offer day programs for seniors. COVID stopped all that, and I don't know that they're even back yet, but I'm hoping that they will, because I have several patients that absolutely loved their day programs, and unfortunately they've been stopped and been at home for the whole year. These programs will usually provide transportation, provide meals, activities, outings, and they even provide exercise for the seniors. I know it maybe sound counterproductive, but you need to get care for the other medical conditions that the patient has. First of all, they should all have external memory for doctor instructions, and that's you, because they are not going to process what a doctor's telling them. Any senior, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. When you start and when you're in your 80s, you should have somebody else with them. They should have somebody else so that they can understand what the doctor's saying, and that they can be reminded what the doctor said to them when they get home, because they forget all kinds of things because they're in their 80s. Seniors with dementia easily forget what they're told. And you as the caregiver can remind them what they need to do to keep themselves healthy. And medication, of course, is a big one, and making sure that they take their medications on time in the proper way. That is up to you, because they are not able to do that. Food. Joy in food. I have had so many conversations with caregivers who, a person with heart you know, heart failure. They're not allowing their loved one to have ice cream anymore, or they're not allowing their loved one to eat this or that because it's not good for the heart. You know what? If they have dementia and they're in their 90s, food is one of the last remaining pleasures for many of them in life. Should they really worry about cholesterol at 94? If someone wants to eat ice cream for lunch instead of, you know, a sandwich, why deny that? Tia Powell says, when you are younger and worried about protecting your cognition, I think it's appropriate to make healthy choices. Once the dementia is moderate to severe, I would not overly restrict. I think then you can make the trade-offs. So if you know they love something, let them have it. You know, some older gentlemen love to have a, you know, a shot of whiskey or something. And I often have to say, especially once they get on hospice, to people who, oh, he can't have that. Why can't he? Why can't he have a drink? You know, he doesn't have to have a whole shot, but give him a little sip. If it's his joy in life, let him have it. Just let them have what they really love. Help them keep moving. Exercise helps prevent the speeding of cognitive delays for all of us. You know, we're all supposed to be doing 150 minutes of exercise every week. Well, we don't necessarily, you know, when you're a senior like that, you can't necessarily do 150 minutes, but it does help them with their cognitive delays. It brings endorphins for the happy feelings. Walking, dancing, chair yoga, they're good ways to keep moving. You can find on the cable TVs, on YouTube, all kinds of activities for seniors, and just put it on and let them, you know, try to follow somebody with yoga. Taking people outdoors with dementia. They love to hear the birds and seeing the flowers. It keeps them all engaged. Going for a walk if you can, if they can walk. Putting them in a wheelchair if you're afraid they're going to fall, and just taking them for a walk in a wheelchair outside. You know, they grew up outside. I can tell you, they probably were allowed to go outside from 8 in the morning until 6 at night when mom rang the dinner bell, because we weren't afraid of people picking them up, and they were told to get outside, or they worked on a farm, or all those different things. So they are used to being outside. Seek joy in the arts with them. Music is really good for dementia. It comes from another part of the brain. I have patients that don't even talk, but if you play music and somebody's singing a song, they can remember that song and they start singing. It is always amazing to me to hear them sing. Happy birthday for one. They all can sing happy birthday. And it's just fun to see. You know, they'll sing sunshine on my shoulders. They'll sing things that they heard as children. Poetry is another thing that's good for dementia because it's nonlinear. It's a non-standard use of words. It catches their attention. So it might be something for you when you're having trouble with somebody to just pull out a poetry book and start reading poetry to them. And maybe that'll redirect their brain and their thinking process so that they can hear and refocus them a little bit instead of having them somewhere else. Returning to childhood activities. Focus on what they can do. If they, you know, remember how tactile things were so good. Focusing on their hands to feel, finger painting, clay, petting animals. We know that animals, that's a very big thing. They, you know, we bring animals into the nursing homes because it just brings calm to them. And so we need to focus on the present, where they are right this minute, and activities that bring them joy right now in the minute and the moment. And hopefully that will help you as well. You get in there, you finger paint, you mold clay with them, you pet animals with them to bring you that time frame of just calmness. And here's my different things that I found, my references. AARP has lots of stuff on things for you to look at. Mayo Clinic, WebMD, and then the 2 books. Teepa Snow, I can't tell you enough to go and look her up. She is amazing. Is there any questions? Can we talk about things?
I was wondering, I used to be a caregiver, and I was wondering if you had any advice for when people start having memory issues and they have gone through some very traumatic events, and so they start just reliving their trauma. And if you haven't experienced trauma like that, it can be kind of hard to find things to say. If you have any recommendations, that would be awesome.
If they are reliving the trauma and talking about it, you mean?
Yeah, like they get very down and they would just want to talk about the trauma a lot.
Well, sometimes they need to process that trauma to get it through through. And then sometimes, you know, and I don't know what kind of trauma you're talking about, but like the death of a spouse is very traumatic for a lot of people. And with a dementia patient, it goes on because they can't remember. So then they ask where their spouse is and they go through the same trauma every day because they've been told that their spouse has died. So a lot of times people change what they're saying and, oh, he went to the store, he'll be back. They have to change that to redirect their feelings a little bit. So I don't know what kind of trauma you're talking about, but redirecting them into something different that you know helps them might be more supportive.
Thanks so much.
Sure. Anybody else?
I just wanted to make a comment, Meg, that one of the things that I see a lot is I see caregivers who are experiencing compassion fatigue and they don't even know it. And so, you know what I mean? And the reason is because, you know, their loved one, you know, started out at a certain level with certain issues and things have just moved, grown and grown and grown, and things have changed. And as things have changed with the caregiving, it's been such a slow process that it's hard for them to even see their own depression and their own anxiety and loss. And loss is huge.
Yep.
With caregivers because they've lost so much of themselves. And I had a lady in my office yesterday and we had a conversation about that because she's not been able to do anything that she loves to do. And
Right.
so she's very depressed and it feels that loss. It's almost like a death, you know, it's almost like
It's slow death. It's a very
it is, and it's a death of themselves, right? Because who they were, they've now lost because they're not really able to be that person anymore because they have to be this caregiver 24 hours a day. And it's just, it's really sad to watch that with people. So that's why it's so important that you talked about lists and you talked about, you know, monitoring what you're doing and look for the joy. It's so important that you do that. And sometimes I think we think that that's not important or we don't have time to do that, but it is so very important. And the other thing as a caregiver that I experienced that I just want to share really quick is that, you know, I'm in a family of 3 children, myself and 2 brothers, and neither one of them really participated in the caregiving of my dad when he had Alzheimer's. My one brother a little bit, but very little. And as he progressed through the disease, they withdrew. And so I think it's really important that that you have a plan for that as a caregiver. So if as things progress, if those people that had been helping you, if they tend to withdraw, you need to have a plan for what it is, or continue to look for people to help you, or contact a home health agency, or look at hospice, or whatever it is that you need to do. I think that's so important that people think about that ahead of time and not wait, right? Because then you kind of get in that quagmire, that pit, you know, of being alone. And that is so very hard.
And it's isolating
Mhm.
because as a person with dementia becomes even more infirmed and not able to get out of bed, and you are doing more and more of the care. That's why it's really important to really try to incorporate family into it. But your story is one of what I see all the time.
Mhm.
And therefore, hopefully you have extra people. Hospice can help some, but caregiving, finding someone in the community that's willing to come in and help you. There's all kinds of agencies that have support. It's not cheap though, and not everybody has the money to pay for that. And that's but the Office on Aging provides, they do have programs, and obviously COVID was a real problem for us, and people couldn't go out, but that would be the time to find and get them out while they can. But once they become bedbound, you definitely need to have support. And it's really, I will say it's really tough on, if you are taking care of an aging parent and you have a spouse, that spouse is not as, I mean, you've been married a long time probably, but the spouse then becomes part of the caregiving team. And that's hard sometimes too, for the spouse who isn't, it's just the in-law, but they do become part of the caregiving team. It's hard.
And I think sometimes caregivers, they feel guilty asking for help. And I've got a couple people at church right now, and they, we keep asking and they keep saying no, but there's so many people that perhaps at church or in your circle of friends or your neighbors who would love to come over and relieve you for an hour or an hour and a half, right? While you go and get a pedicure or a manicure or whatever it is that you need to do, for yourself. But I think sometimes caregivers are, they just feel guilty doing that, leaving their loved one. They feel guilty asking.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the reasons why the withdrawal in the beginning, when we talked about that, you do need to ask, you need to do things for yourself. And if that means, if you don't have the funds, then yes, a church group or community groups, hospice have volunteers. And now that COVID's over, we can start having volunteers come back in the house to sit so that you can get out. The biggest thing I find is the caregiver doesn't go to the doctors. And so most of if our people are in their 80s, usually their spouse is also in their 80s. And so that spouse needs to be going to the doctors as well as the patient. And so I can stress, please don't feel guilty. Ask. People want to help. They just don't know how.
We have a comment in the chat box, which it's from Betty. And Betty says, so glad you mentioned the spouse. We live on a farm and all that responsibility is falling on my husband while I stay with my dad every night. No siblings or children. I feel guilty adding to my husband's workload at the end of a busy work day for him.
Yeah, it is hard. I don't know if your dad has a little bit of financial, people are always afraid to use that money, but they have Social Security, and if he's and many people try to keep their parent in their home because that's what they want to do. Aging in home, aging in place. But if he has some extra income, that's what you need to use the money for, is to help you, hire somebody to help your husband around to do some chores that you can, if you can hire. If you're willing to stay with your dad, maybe you can use some of his funds to hire somebody else just to help. There's always ways. You just have to look at the budget, and you have to explain to the person, well, we need somebody, we need help. Can you help us with that? And if they don't have dementia, they actually usually do have some money. You'd be surprised. They've been, these people are from the greatest generation if they're in their 90s. They went through the Depression. They went through World War II, Korea, Vietnam. they usually know how to save, so they have money that you could maybe access.
I heard somebody, first of all, hi, it's Ellen. I apologize for being so late. I had another meeting. But listening to you talk, I heard somebody give a talk once and say, this is the rainy day that you've been saving for. I thought that was great.
That is really good. That's right. It is.
And, you know, I think sometimes that, I mean, that's a very good point, Meg. I think sometimes that we think the money needs to be used for dad, but if the situation warrants, like Betty's, where her husband needs some help, really it's, you know, it's the caregiver. Yeah, I mean, it really shouldn't make any difference, you know, I mean, and we shouldn't feel guilty about that if that's what we need, you know, because if you're spending time with your dad every night, you know, maybe, you know, Betty, you need to have somebody even come in and help you clean the house or help you, you know what I mean? Just simple little things that sometimes we think we, you know, we shouldn't do, or we shouldn't use those resources for that. But the reality is you need to, if you need help, you need it, you know.
And here's another one that I find, and I have found over the years, one child has given up a job and has gone home to live with the parents and care for the parent, while there are 5 other children out there and taking care and doing their jobs and not coming to help. And the mother there is funds in the family. And I encourage that person who has given up their life, this is your job now. So you make sure that you take funds so that you can live. You need to have that's a job that you need to pay. You need to be paid for. And write yourself a check. If you're in charge, write yourself a check. If you're 10 years, you're writing a check every month for yourself so that you have something when that parent dies and everything is split up amongst all of you. I'm sorry, you're the one that gave up your life. You need to make a paycheck for yourself. And it really takes a while for people, but they do start to do that. It may sound terrible, but I think that's the way to go. If you are giving up your life to live with this person and nobody else helps you, take the funds for yourself, make yourself a paycheck. If they were paying caregivers, they would be paying somebody to do it. So you are the caregiver.
And sometimes I think you need to have a family meeting about that. Sometimes, you know, we think we're not really good at communicating with other family members because for lots of different dynamics. But the reality is when it comes to caring for a parent, it's important to include, you know, all of the family members so that everybody knows. Everybody knows what's going on, right? And everybody can participate in that decision making.
And if they have problems with you taking a paycheck, then they need to come give their time too, so that you can go get a job and work instead of taking care of the parent.
Hey, Meg, can you touch a little bit on, I know you talked about, you know, caregiver burnout and when you're thinking of harming yourself or the loved one that you're caring for. Can you kind of just give a couple examples of like, because I think a lot of times when we're caregiving, we kind of, when we get stressed out, we put ourselves on autopilot and may not realize that we're feeling certain ways or doing certain things that may be putting either ourselves or our loved ones at jeopardy. Can you kind of give a couple examples of signs of what to look for and when to reach out for that help?
I think when you have cleaned up the poop, because we know that sometimes Alzheimer's patients don't get it, and they have wiped BM all over the bathroom and in the hallway, and you've cleaned it up for the 3rd time in the day, and you lose your cool, and you find yourself wanting to strike out at your Alzheimer's patient, that's when you need help, because you don't realize in anger how hard you can be. First of all, we don't hit, and the screaming and the yelling, all of those things, when you lose your cool, that's when you really need help. And you need somebody else to step in, because let's face it, this is a hard job. And like I said, at the 3rd time in the day, you have cleaned it up and you are just over the top with it, that's, and you lose your cool, that's when you call for help. You just go in the other room, you close the door, count to 10, pick up the phone and call for help. If you have, and it's good, as Lisa was saying before, to make a plan so that when you get to that point, hopefully you don't, because you've made a plan, when you start to feel overwhelmed, you can call your sister, your friend down the street, please, can you come and be here for a half hour? I need a break. I need to go for a walk. I cannot be in this house anymore. I need to get away. And that's, you've made a plan beforehand. And that's what the whole planning is about. Make the plan so that when you get to that point, and you know, it's the hardest job, because a 2-year-old, you can put him in a playpen and you can, if you're having a rough day, and walk in the other room. But, you know, you cannot put a 200-pound man in a playpen. It doesn't work. They'll climb out. So definitely make a plan so that you, when you're feeling like that, you can, you know, we've unfortunately seen online, you know, television news where people have just had enough and they have taken the life of the person and then taken their own lives. And that's what we don't want that for you. We want, you know, there is help out there and we're all willing to help.
Are there any other questions?
One other thing that I would just like to mention to keep in mind is that, especially with dementia patients, you know, behaviors, whether it's something like what Meg just mentioned, or even something else, can be very difficult to deal with. And many times a caregiver, especially a spouse, will continue to deal with things a whole lot longer than they should. And sometimes, like with dementia, it's like a tick almost, where they're doing the same thing over and over again, whatever that may be. We had a lady one time and she would sing at the top of her lungs and she would clap her hands, and it went on, it was like a tick, it went on all day long. And that is really difficult for caregivers. And the point that I'm trying to make is, I think sometimes we don't even see those things because they've been going on so long. And so it's good to talk to someone. It's good. Aging Together just put together a great resource guide with lots and lots for seniors, with lots and lots of different resources. And there's great home health agencies that are in there. And when we talk about making a list, what we're really talking about is having a conversation with someone long before you get there, so you know what resources are out there in your county and what resources might work for you, because some might not work and you know, others would work better. So, and some, you know, some companies you have to use them so many times a week, and some organizations it's just hours, it's just a number of hours. So there's lots of different ways to utilize the resources that are in that guide. But I would be very cognizant of behaviors and how that impacts you emotionally. And I would look for resources like the Senior Resource Guide that we have at Aging Together, which is online now, and you can go out and take a look at that. So that you can be prepared.
Right. I would say that prepare ahead of time. Do as best you can hiring somebody to come in ahead of time, so that, and get to know people ahead of time, planning a little bit, maybe if it's only once every 2 weeks, because then those people become familiar. And when you need help, you have them there for support. I mean, this is just an example. Lisa gave one. I have another one. A patient, you know, she's a 95-pound dynamo. Every morning at 3 a.m. in the morning, she wakes up and she goes around the house knocking on everything. Hello, hello, hello. And it goes on for hours. And, you know, while they have locks on the door so she can't get out anymore, because that's what she used to do, listening to that so that they try to sleep, it doesn't work. So everybody in the household is up. So a doctor's visit sometimes is helpful as well. Remember that the doctors are there to support you. Somebody who knows gerontology and knows how to work with Alzheimer's patients. Thank you
Meg,
very much.
this is great information. Thank you so much. This has been such great basic tips on, and I love that one saying you said about find your happiness. That was so important for the caregivers. And one thing you had mentioned during your talk was something about the local senior centers. And I just wanted to make sure everybody did know that in all 5 counties, the senior centers are open. It's still in Orange, Fauquier, Culpeper, Madison, and Rappahannock counties. And starting July 1st, they'll be back, or I think it's July 5th, they're going back full time. And then again, like Lisa mentioned, on the Aging Together website, there's lots of resources from different activities that you can use with your parents, or support groups for the caregiver. We have all of our recorded programs like this one, which will be up on our website. So feel free to send them to your friends or someone who can use the information. And then of course the regional resource guide is out in all 5 counties, and we've got them in most of the libraries, at the Department of Social Services, at the senior centers and hospitals, and we'll mail a copy out to someone if they can't get out to get one. And then of course there is one digitally online. So, but thank you. This was such a wonderful, helpful webinar. We really appreciate you being here. Ellen, you have any last thoughts? Oh, we do have a Dementia Friends coming up too. I wanted to mention, in addition to the summer series, that we have the summer series that continues through August. And then we have on August 27th is Dementia Friends, which is a evening program. First time we're going to do it in the evening for people who are working full time. So 6:30, and you just go register on our website. Thank you all, everybody, for being here. It's 10:58. Alan, you got any last minute comments?
I don't know. I just, sorry, I had another meeting. It was actually about elder abuse, so another very critical topic. But that I really appreciate today's talk and the whole series, and thanks to Lisa for pulling it all together. And thank you, Meg, for sure. And sorry I had to join so late, but I will go back and look at the recording.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much.
I hope you all have
happy caregiving. Remember yourselves.
Happy caregiving. That's nice. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Have a good afternoon.